What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're jumping into my best controller settings for you guys here to use on Modern Warfare 2. Of course, I play on controller, and a lot of you guys out there be asking me, how do I hit all those shots? How's my accuracy so good? So I'm gonna show you guys everything I use to fine-tune my aim to make sure it's the best it possibly can be. Real quick, if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, those notifications turned on, and let's hop into this. All right, so let's hop in here and give you guys my controller settings, what I happen to use to have such great accuracy, good movement, you know, as much movement you can possibly have on this game. So of course we play on controller. I do play on tactical flipped, and pretty much this means that my R2, my L2, pretty much all those triggers, my L1, R1, R2, L2 are all swapped. So that just means that like I tend to shoot and aim with my top triggers. I believe that's more beneficial just because it's less of a press in time. A lot of the triggers on the bottom, like you have to actually press in the full trigger in order to be able to get it to register. So if you don't have a custom controller or anything that's got trigger stops on it, definitely recommend switching over to the top triggers or the buttons more or less on the top in order to be able to actually shoot and aim. It will be faster than using the bottom triggers. After that, we're gonna go down here. We happen, of course, I do play with the flip on, so you guys can turn that on or off. That's how you happen to flip everything. And my stick layout actually is just on default here. My controller vibrations on. Doesn't really matter if you have it on or off. It's not going to mess with you. I just have had it on pretty much ever since I started playing COD, so it doesn't bother me in any capacity. So I just leave it there. My trigger effect is on off. You definitely want to make sure that's off. You do not need any of this haptic feedback, any of that shenanigans. Don't use it. If you have a PS5 controller and that's you're playing with, turn off haptic feedback. It's not necessary for COD. Actually, it's very highly unnecessary. Now getting down into my horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity. I do play on a 6.6 sensitivity. This is what I happen to play on. Of course, the default is on, I think, the medium, which is 3, which is what my buddy plays on, which is unbelievably slow. So shout out to Ears for that one. But I would recommend for you guys to try out 6.6. I actually used to play on an 8.8, then I kind of bumped it down to an 8.7, then like a 7.7, then I just kind of finally bumped it down to a 6.6, and I ended up figuring out that this was really good because it gave me all the ability to look around me as fast as I needed to, but it also allowed me to be able to kind of have more of a fine, precise aim and not kind of miss as many shots, because when your stick sensitivity is too high, those little small movements can really be detrimental. You can just lose your target just like that, or just be slightly off target to the point where you're losing gunfights. So try out 6.6 and see what you think. My ADS sensitivity multiplier, by the way, is on a 0.90, so aka when I aim down sight, your default multiplier is a 1.0, so that'd be a 6.6 there, and that's what I normally have when I look around. But when I do start ADSing, it is just below that, and it slows me down a little bit more so to help it so that I don't start getting off target. So that's why my accuracy can be so good, because I've adjusted that a little bit. So I definitely recommend for you guys to try that. Of course, my sensitivity multiplier here, everything is just on 1.0. I don't believe you guys need to do anything else. Is not required or really any bit beneficial for you guys to be running a higher sensitivity multiplier. Like, it just really does make sense. And of course, everything here on my vertical aim axis is just standard. I don't really think anyone needs to mess with this. I mean, you don't need to go inverted. It just is not something that's going to benefit you at all. So I'd recommend for you guys just to stay on standard. Now going down here, of course, my aim on sights behavior is on hold. You don't want this to be on anything else. You guys can kind of have this to be more or less whatever you want, but this is on sprint / tactical sprint / focus. I don't think it should be on melee. I just always have this on that. And then even down here, I have automatic tac sprint. This is huge if you guys want to save your controller's lifespan a little bit. You want to extend it out. Have automatic tac sprint. It won't be as good if you're using something like shotguns, because the automatic tac sprint will kind of take over, and of course you want to be able to hip fire with shotguns. But if you're running like an AR, SMG, LMG, sniper, so on and so forth, an automatic tac sprint will be hugely beneficial because you're not constantly mashing in that button, your left stick, in order to be able to sprint. It definitely will save your controller, and it'll save you on some stick drift, which is something we'll talk about here in a second, because I know a lot of people have issues with that. Equipment behavior is on hold here. Weapon mount activation, ADS / melee. My interact / reload behavior is on tap to reload. But if you guys are going to be playing, this is what I play multiplayer with. But if I go over to Warzone, I'm going to do prioritize interact or prioritize reload. One of these two here, just depending on what I'm feeling. But pretty much you want to switch over from tap to reload to one of these two if you're playing Warzone. It's up to you, but otherwise, tap to reload exclusively for multiplayer is what makes sense. Armor plate behaviors, apply all. I think that's pretty standard. Now getting in here to some of the advanced settings here, my target aim assist, of course, is on. You got to make sure that's on. You don't ever want to mess with that and turn it off. I mean, some people say aim assist is cheating. It's like, it's in the game. It's right here. It's in the settings. So use it. I mean, controllers do need aim assist based on, like, you know, how much ability we have. We don't have, like, you know, full mouse to be able to, like, you know, pinpoint everything and have great accuracy like that. So there's a reason we have aim assist, because we have thumbsticks. So definitely use that. Aim assist type is on default. I have seen people say the black Black Ops aim assist type is actually really sticky and actually kind of OP. So if you guys feel like you want to try something a little bit different than default, I definitely recommend trying out Black Ops, but pretty much stay away from precision or focusing. Just either go for default or Black Ops, and that's that. They actually, by the way, they also nerfed Black Ops at one point just because it was like almost too good. So that kind of shows that, you know, it's pretty sticky aim assist right there. After that, third person, it's just aim assist right there. My gyro behavior is on off. Gravity vector off. Don't need any of this on there. Just don't ever use any of that. And of course, we're just gonna pretty much go over the rest of those settings as that doesn't matter. Now onto the aiming side of things. My aim response curve type is dynamic. So I prefer to play on dynamic. The description here is reverse S curved mapping for fine aim rate control. Linear is just gonna be, it maps directly to the stick rate or the aim rate. And I was running linear for a long time, but ever since I moved over to dynamic, I really do like that sort of S curve and how it does kind of slow stuff down a little bit. So it makes it so you kind of get off target less easily because it ramps up, you know, how much it's going to take for you to kind of get off target towards the end or when you start making those crazy movements. So it kind of keeps you on target more often than not. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'd recommend for you guys to try dynamic over linear and especially standard. You should be using either linear or dynamic, not standard. So kind of stay away from that. My ADS sensitivity multiplier is just on 1.0. I've just kind of left that right there as I don't think I need to change it at all. ADS sensitivity transition timing has got to be on instant. You always want it to be instant. Your custom sensitivity presume, I just have this on off. I don't think I need it. I mean, for whatever I'm using, it doesn't really matter from sniping or from using an AR and SMG. I just keep everything the same. So that way it's just super easy for me to kind of go back and forth and I don't really have to mess with anything. On my input dead zone here, so this is going to be kind of like a little bit more personal preference, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is that I was going to get into it. So your left and right stick dead zone, I had this at a 0.15 and this has worked out fine for me. I haven't adjusted my dead zones too much, but I know people that mess their dead zones. I just got to tell you guys this, is that if you mess with your dead zone, you will potentially have issues with tuning, and that's why people have issues with their tuning. Like, oh, my slider kind of goes back and forth left and right, you know, without me doing anything. And that's because you have stick drift on your controller. So you have to increase your dead zone a little bit so you get less stick drift. That's a huge thing. So if you have that stick drift, tuning is difficult, or your character, if you set your controller down and just starts moving in game by itself, that means you have stick drift and you need to increase your dead zone. And at a certain point, you may just have to get a new controller because stick drift is not realistically one of those things you kind of ever fix. Apart from that though, my left stick max, right stick max is just 0.99. The left trigger, right trigger, I pretty much put this to 0 just because I don't need no dead zone for my triggers. As soon as I touch that thing, I like it to be able to, you know, interact or do something. So I just have that. I mean, granted, it's only just for like, you know, some lethals and tacticals, but it's not like I need any dead zone right there. So I just recommend having on those at 0. Your left and right stick is going to be depending on your controller, and do you have stick drift? Do you not? Is it brand new? You know, if you had it for a long time, this is personal thing. My auto move forward is on off. My tactical sprint behavior is on double tap, and my grounded mantle is off. You do not want to have your grounded mantle on. This will cause you to just randomly, like if you're next to, let's say, a table and you want to be able to kind of, you know, jump shot somebody, you may accidentally, you know, mantle that table, and you're of course not going to be zoomed in when you do that, and that will cause you to lose that gunfight. So pretty much have your grounded mantle off. That's not really a good thing to have. You want to make sure that you have to actually physically, you know, want to jump onto it in order for it to, you know, happen. So that you don't want it to accidentally happen. It's really not good. Of course, my automatic airborne mantle is on off. Ground mantle is off. And pretty much all this stuff here is just standard movement. Parachute auto deploy is on just because I feel like I'd go splat if I play Warzone. And sprinting door bash, got to keep that on. The rest of the stuff down here, we'll just see if there's anything else in here that's actually, you know, really useful. But to be honest, otherwise, it's pretty just like standard. Now, a section that's not necessarily dedicated to controller settings, but something that's incredibly beneficial to pay attention to is your field of view and different, you know, ADS field of view settings. I'd recommend for you guys to play on the maximum field of view possible on this game. I know console was stuck at 80 field of view for a long time there beforehand, but I recommend for you guys to specifically try maxing it out to 120 so you can see the most amount of what's going on around you. I know console has no issue with that, PS5 at least specifically, because I played on PS5 and it's very easy to be able to use. It's very fluid, so I'd recommend for you guys to try 120. Your ADS field of view should be on affected though. So there's an affected and independent. Independent will see that, like, let's say if you go back up here and you're on 120 FOV, you'll go from that 120 FOV. I'll take out my my mouse right here, but if you go from that 120 and you'll zoom all the way into 80 if you have it on independent. So you do not want it to be on independent. You want it to be on effective. That'll keep you zoomed out. And when it keeps you zoomed out, that means that your visual recoil seems a little bit less. You obviously want to minimize the amount of visual recoil we have, but to keep it a stack, it is really odd when you have to zoom in 40 FOV to start shooting at someone and then you zoom out. Like, it's a little bit too much in my opinion. It's too zoomed in. So I just recommend playing 120, put it on affected, and call it a day, as that's going to make your life so much better. A weapon field view, I just keep this on wide. It doesn't matter too much. The default pretty much is going to work out really nice, or wide. I wouldn't really recommend on narrow. You don't want your gun taking up more of your screen than possible or than it needs to. And of course, my third person FOV is just maxed out for 90. And your first person camera movement, always put this down to the least, aka 50%. The less sort of like weird camera movement you have, the better. Those are all my top tier controller settings. If you guys happen to enjoy today's video, be sure to do me a favor, give it a like and subscribe, and of course check out one of these other videos here on screen. Just remember, don't triple cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.